Don't worry, my sweet girl. We'll find you.
Introducing professional voice artist Satauna Howery.
I think as blind people today, we end up having to know so many different screen readers and technologies in order to really be competitive.
From cartoons to TV promotion, radio advertisement, audio description, Satauna's voice can be heard around the world.
Martin Short is back on stage and takes us behind the scenes of his Broadway play, About a Play, tomorrow on CBS This Morning. There were tools that were given to me growing up that really did shape me.
Mom! The baby threw up on the dog and the dog is eating it!
Even if something is accessible, it doesn't necessarily mean it's really a usable thing.
Right.
So I've called Ira to do things for me that, can I do them myself? Yeah. Do I really want to take that much time? Not really. Maybe I'm just a biomechanical engineer, sending impulses to your optic nerve via holographic transponder.
And now, please welcome Satauna Howery.
While it can be an advantage to grow up with a disability, you have to find a way to circumnavigate the lack of expectation, you know? Mm-hmm. There's so much, no, don't do that. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that for you.
And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. You pronounce her last name Howery?
Yes, and Satauna Howery.
In that order.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just go.
Okay.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson, and in the studio today, y'all get Satauna Howery. She's a voice artist. She's done plenty of stuff. She has a website. How many people have a website? Satauna.com. I mean, that's pretty good. Welcome aboard, Satauna.
Thank you so much for having me. You know what? I just had a moment when you started out and you were talking about who you were and you're Jeff Thompson. There was just a second where I was like, is that like Casey Kasem reincarnated right there? From the American Top 40 of my childhood?
And we're going all the way across America to upper state New York where the chickens are in the backyard. The sun goes out to Satauna. Yeah.
They are. We had a rooster that we think we had hiccups today. That was really interesting. The rooster with hiccups.
Does that upset your day a little bit? Like, wait, today might have hiccups.
Oh, well, days have hiccups. You mean if I have hiccups, how do I do that as a voice talent when I'm hiccuping?
No. I mean, the rooster usually takes credit for the sun coming up, but it had hiccups.
It had hiccups.
But the sun still came up.
Well, rooster taking credit for the sun coming up. I don't understand that at all because our roosters crow all day long and often in the night, probably because there are heat lamps in the chicken coop in the wintertime. So,
do you ever hear the rooster crow and check your watch?
No.
Do you remember that old alarm for...
No. Are you talking about those watches that used to have the rooster crowing?
Yeah.
The old Radio Shack watches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. I had a student one time, and he was an ESL student. He was learning English as a second language. And we stepped outside of this store that we were at, and it was out at a country place, and we were getting Christmas trees for the class. And a rooster crowed, and he points and goes, "Alarm! Alarm!" And I'm like, I'm going to have to connect this thought together for him. It's like, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah. It is. It's the sound of the Radio Shack watch. Talking about voice on your website, my voice, your message, Bullseye.
Yes.
That's what you do.
It is what I do. It's my tagline. It's my logo. So yeah, I get to run my mouth for a living. It's really great. I do everything from thank you for calling. You've reached the automated system from the depths of despair where you get to press 900 numbers to get to the person you want to talk to. To I'm the voice at the Tampa, Florida airport. I've never been to Tampa.
You.
So I haven't heard myself tell myself not to leave my baggage unattended, but that's me. I have heard myself on a Delta flight. For a while there, a few years back, I was doing advertising. Sort of before you take off, there were messages that were going out about Delta's new app and that you should download it. And then in flight, they have this Billboard Top 100 thing that you can play, sort of part of the in-flight entertainment. And that I was the DJ
and
for that.
You were so convincing.
I was so convincing.
And you're so convincing on that airplane. You downloaded it yourself. Wow, I sold myself.
Yeah, I do a lot of e-learning. I do a lot of technical, medical, scientific reading. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, when people hear voiceover, they think radio, TV, but there's so much more than that.
And then, every now and then, I get to do, like, some crazy cartoon character.
On a video game or something, some crazy.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you didn't do my medical prescription that way.
No, your safety information. Your safety is our primary concern. Maybe yesterday, but not today.
Yeah, when the voices get all mixed up. That's a busy place upstairs there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do people in your family ever get mixed up on who you really are when you're using your different voices?
Well, there's three of us. There's me, there's my husband, Tom, and there's my daughter, Kira. And because my daughter is my daughter, she grew up with all of this. And so I would say has inherited that trait. She spent a year living in Brooklyn and then moved home. And when she came home, she was like, Mom, I get this walking around the house singing random lyrics from you, Mom. And I didn't realize it until my roommates noticed it and then started doing it because I do it, Mom. So she has inherited some of that. And indeed, she has begun upon her own voiceover path.
Was it a compliment or complaining?
You mean, was she complimenting or complaining to me about her singing?
Yeah.
No, I think it was totally a compliment. I think that she likes that she does that. And it's fun. It's goofy. It's fun. And the voiceover stuff, she really enjoys too.
And you get to do that.
Yeah, she's done some cool stuff. She did a piece for Nintendo a few years back. She's worked with Scholastic. Yeah, done some cool stuff.
And you've done quite a bit of advertisement out there. People probably have heard you all around the world.
Yeah, I have clients in over 25 countries. I mean, the beautiful thing about voiceover is it's a worldwide thing. You can do it almost anywhere. I mean, I've done voiceover out of hotel rooms a lot when traveling. Primarily, I work out of my hobbit hole in my basement. It's a 4x6 whisper room sound booth. But you can do voiceover just about anywhere, as long as you have the technology and the skill set to manage it. And you can garner clients from almost anywhere. I have been paid in every way imaginable. People in Kuwait or Libya paying me via Western Union, so it's a lot of fun. It's a ton of fun.
What's a ruble?
What's a ruble, yeah.
Can you describe a whisper room to the listeners? It sounds like we're in a movie theater where you take your kid when they're crying or something.
Yeah, right. So it's, I presume underneath this sort of felty kind of wall covering is just wood. And it literally is just a room. It's all carpeted. It's all felted. It's all fabricy, soft. And then there are pieces of studio foam, sort of that. I would not call it egg carton. It doesn't look like an egg carton. This is more squarey. They're squarey with little points on the end. There's probably a shape name that I just don't know off the top of my head. And these foam pieces Velcro to the sides of the booth.
Anything to drown out the rooster.
Yeah. And there's a door behind me, a big, heavy door with a window in it. You can get them without a window, but I got mine with a window. Because even though I can't see out of it, other people I knew could. And my daughter's worked in this booth. And it's nice for my husband to be, when he comes downstairs, I can wave at him or I can shake my head at him like, no, don't come in, I'm recording or whatever. The door locks. There is a patch bay on one of the walls with cable connections on the inside of the booth and then connections on the outside so that you don't have a bunch of cables running across the floor and things like that. So it's just a big, well-insulated room. And it comes on a pallet and we brought it piece by piece down into the basement and put it together. It just screws together. Just, your basic electric drill and some elbow grease. And it was really fun. When my husband and I put it together, we had a good time doing it. It was great fun. See the walls go up slowly one by one, and then you got to put the ceiling on. The ceiling, there's a light that goes in the ceiling. And again, not something I use often, but
that's cool.
It's pretty neat.
So that's where you do your work. You got your microphone in there, and then you can get some good quality sounds with low floor noise. And
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm in the basement. So, the rooster's far, far away and doesn't generally get heard in my recordings.
I wonder if the rooster knew it was going to be talked about so much today.
I don't know.
That's probably why they had the hiccups.
The funny thing is that actually the loudest backyard creatures we have are the guineas. We have 2 guineas, guinea guy and guinea girl. She sounds like a rusty hinge squeak. I don't even think I could do what she sounds like. I couldn't do what either of them sound like. And he's just, he's lower though. I can't do his low voice. He's...
I don't know the difference. That sounded pretty good to me.
It's wrong, though. If you really want to hear a guinea, look it up on YouTube. I am not the representative guinea noisemaker in any capacity.
I'm going to keep that sound, label it guinea, and I'll send me the invoice. Yeah.
That's going to be your ringtone.
Yeah. How did you get started? When did you realize that your voice was going to be a moneymaker?
I grew up doing music. I grew up in Southern California, and my parents brought a piano home when I was 2. And I don't remember, but their story is that I came home from nursery school. I guess we call it preschool now. And I started just kind of plunking on it with my thumbs. And I came home and I played London Bridge is Falling Down and just kind of picked it out, And it took me a couple of weeks to figure out that I could use all my fingers. And that was it. Like the piano was my thing. So I grew up playing music and singing and writing. When I was a teenager, my dad built a studio in our house. It moved a couple of times. First it was in the house. Well, first it was, he just sort of, there was the piano and then they bought an organ. They almost got divorced over buying the organ. And then, microphones came along and a drum machine came along. My dad had an old reel-to-reel 2-track tape recorder. I broke more cassette recorders growing up, but he gave me this old reel-to-reel, which I still have, tape recorder. And that was sort of my first multi-track experience. It was only, a 2-track, stereo kind of thing, but I could record and then overdub with a second track on the right channel, and that was cool. Mm-hmm. And then drum machines and synthesizers started appearing. And so by the time I became a teenager, we moved it to space in the garage. We converted that. And then that was converted again. They actually built a whole separate space for it, like that was completely outside of the house. I walked out into the backyard and had a studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your first gig as your voice doing the work?
Oh my gosh. As voiceover or as a musician? Voiceover.
The dynamic.
I know. You didn't quite expect me to go, yeah. I guess I tell that story because, if I'm going to talk about voiceover, the fact is that so many of the skills that I gained that allow me to do this job as effectively as I can do it came from all of that work as a child. Like I said, I played, I sang, I wrote songs. Somewhere kicking around in 1981, I was on That's Incredible. I was 7. As, the blind musical genius or whatever. The slogan my dad came up with was the Mozart of the 20th century. That was his little thing, which as you grow up doesn't work so much anymore because you grow up, right?
You'd have to change it to 21st century.
But no, I'm not a classical pianist, and I love playing music and that kind of thing, but I never really had the commitment to it that it would have taken to be an amazing classical or jazz pianist. I just don't have the commitment to practice that much. My point was that the skills that I gained as a child are skills that have served me well growing up. I would say one of the first voiceover gigs that I did was, I don't even remember how old I was. I was a teenager, and a friend of ours had a shooting gallery that he was putting together, and he needed voiceover for some of the characters. And so I did that.
A shooting gallery where characters appear.
A shooting gallery,
and you shoot them.
Yeah, like animatronic kind of characters, like you would go to an amusement park and there's a shooting gallery and you shoot the cowboy or,
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
And so you were the different voices, the different sounds for the...
Yeah, there was, I did some of the actual sound design work of it. And then I remember there was one where, I don't remember what the character was exactly, but the line was,
I don't want to be a McNugget.
Except we had to change it because we couldn't say McNugget because McNugget is sort of a patented McDonald's thing. Ah. So we had to come back and do a pickup, which was I don't want to be a chicken nugget or I don't want to be a something like that. I forget what the character was. It must have been some kind of chicken. But yeah, that was one of my first voiceover things. And as I grew older, I had people off and on would say to me, wow, you should do voiceover. You should do voiceover. And I think I kept thinking that, yeah, someday I'll get around to that. I'll do a demo. I'll just put one together, all by myself. And that was the mistake for me anyway. And in the voiceover industry, they will tell you, don't do your own demo. Have somebody else do it. And once I got past that and let somebody else do it, then it took off.
Really?
Yeah. Because writing your own copy or finding your own copy, it's time consuming and no fun. And ultimately, that's one of the things that held me back. I didn't want to have to script it. I didn't want to think about what to say. And also, you don't know who you are. You don't know if you haven't been doing this work. Where do you fit in? What kind of reads is the industry interested in at that point in time? Because even since I've been doing this since 2013, the reads that people want have changed. There's this whole real person, sincere, believable, conversational kind of vibe. And there's almost a flat read that's come into vogue where you're almost kind of speaking really evenly and there's not really a lot of change in the way that you say anything. And you just kind of read really flat. Where the visuals, you're really just a voice sort of supporting these visuals. But, the kinds of reads that are wanted have changed. And so when you get together with a demo producer who's been doing this for a while, they know what those things are about. And they can help you find your voice, so to speak, and how to pull out of yourself things you don't even know are there because you don't even know that they're things that are being sought after.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I know what you mean by thinking you're going to write a script. And then you start thinking, on what? Oh, okay. A soap. Okay. Laundry soap. Pretty soon You're just down this rabbit hole that goes, you just keep losing time and everything. So you receive a script. How do you access it? How do you go about it?
I am a Braille user. Scripts will come to me in Microsoft Word format or PDF. Every now and then I will get one in a .png or .jpg, JPEG format or something, some kind of picture format that I'll have to do OCR on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dial up IRA.
Yeah, that's it. There have been cases where that has happened. But I access everything via Braille display, and I'm a JAWS user. Yeah, I have NVDA too. I get it, but I think the Braille under NVDA isn't as great as it is under JAWS. And I have a Mac, I have an iPhone, and it's a whole other subject, but I think as blind people today, we end up having to know so many different screen readers and technologies in order to really be competitive.
Oh, that's a must.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have something in your back pocket. You never know when you're going to have to pull it out, and when you can, it could save you half a day.
Yeah, or it could change and it could cost you half a day. Right? Because things change on a dime. And I just did an update to Apple iOS, and I don't know what the deal is with my mail, but all of a sudden now when I open it, I feel like I have to swipe right to read every single line. Like it's not reading my mail correctly anymore. That's just one example. I remember there was a time when Skype flipped over on me and and everything that I had known suddenly went right out the window. And, I had a session and, how do I get here and what do I do and where did it all go? So things can change. So you have to be quick and flexible. I think a level of troubleshooting and technological understanding and know-how that people who are blind have to have that our sighted counterparts don't.
Absolutely.
They get IT departments. We don't. We are the IT department in a lot of cases.
I used to do 3 hours worth of transferring my text into OCR and getting it all readable and all that. And then I'd spend 2 more hours doing my homework, so it was complicated, it was, but that skill level that you build up from doing that yourself you kind of fine tune that a little bit. So you're prepared when something else comes up that you're ready to troubleshoot it a little bit or surrender it and just say, Ira, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What a great tool when you need it.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's a really good thing. It's a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. It's a door opening field. What am I trying to say? It can level the playing field in some instances or create a level of efficiency that wasn't previously there. Even if something is accessible, it doesn't necessarily mean it's really a usable thing.
Right.
So I've called Ira to do things for me that, can I do them myself? Yeah. Do I really want to take that much time? Not really. They're going to do it much faster than me, so they can have it.
And that's what it is. It's all about efficiency. You got things to do. I like a schedule. I like an agenda. I like time slots. And if I come across something, I just need to know this, boom, I get it done that way. It's just another tool. Yeah. I said it before, in the toolbox. It's just another something to keep on hand. And it's a good one. It's a good one.
It is.
So animation, you went into cartoons and your voices. I mean, you didn't just stop on doing a voiceover for a commercial. All of a sudden there was this opportunity, that opportunity. Seems like you've done the gauntlet.
I think for me that getting into voiceover was, and really kind of still is, a process of self-discovery. And I think it is, I don't know, is it for most voice actors? Gosh, I hope so. There are so many niches within voiceover. Audio description is, well, there are niches and genres, like e-learning is a genre in voiceover, but within e-learning, there's sort of your really technical e-learning.
Study of structure includes using spectroscopy and other physical and chemical methods to determine the chemical composition and constitution of organic compounds and materials.
And then there's your just sort of tutorial kinds of stuff. Here's how to use your favorite app. You know what I'm saying? That's a different kind of thing than teaching somebody how to use a medical device, right?
Yeah.
There are all of these different things in voiceover, voicemail, audio description, e-learning, medical narration.
Medtronic is uniquely positioned to take a broader look so we can all take healthcare further together.
Video games, animation, cartoon kinds of things.
What's that moving in the trees? What are you?
Enemy fighters attacking our base. We need defenders. Look at it.
I'm not afraid. What was that? There's no such thing as monsters. There's no such thing as monsters. There's no such thing as...
At last, you're mine. And soon, the kingdom of Hakala will be too. TV promo, explainer videos, radio and TV commercials, that's a given, right?
Fall under the spell with Maybelline's Color Elixir. The color of a lipstick, the cushiony care of a balm, and the glass shine of a gloss. Maybe it's Maybelline. From Maybelline, New York. As humans, we are happiest when we feel connected to each other.
One of the things that we have been raised to do is to give the patient back their dignity.
By being kind to just one person today, you'll create happiness for yourself as well. We're Dignity Health, and we've always known that human connections help people heal faster.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to say a few words about the power of baking stuff. I'm talking about Toll House chocolate chip cookies and this big muffiny looking thing.
He looks like your typical New Yorker, and not in a good way. But he still gets more action than you. Howard Stern on Sirius Satellite Radio.
Have a question for Dr. Laura? Email us at drlaura@foxradio.com. Now, back to the Dr. Laura Show.
It's now time for the Top 8 at 8. Top 8 at 8 on Cool 101.7 Columbus. You're listening to Bloomberg Information Radio. Business starts here. Whatever happens in sports,
Hear it first.
on ESPN 1390 and FM 97.1. ESPN.
I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of them. I mean, museum, walking tours. I could keep going. But you get the idea. There's so much there. And I think there's an opportunity when you get into it to just play around in all of these areas and figure out what you like to do. And again, we go back to the discussion of why you don't do your own demo, because you don't know who you are. I remember like the first 18 months of being in voiceover, I redid my commercial demo like 3 times. Because I changed so much in a short period of time because I was doing it full time and I had mentors and coaches and I was growing and changing and figuring things out. And so my style changed, my reads matured, everything kind of coalesced into who I really was and where were the powerful things that I could offer. So I think that self-discovery is a continuous process.
Your voice is what sells you. You do the job with confidence because your voice can do it. And that blindness or being disabled has nothing to do with it. Companies aren't checking off a box or anything like that because, hey, we hired this. You're using your talents, your skills. That sells the job.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think there are people you can Google me, and if you Google me, you'll find I won an award for my voice work in 2017, and you can actually find the YouTube video, and you can see me walking down onto the stage with my guide dog. I don't hide it, but I don't shout it on the rooftops either. It's not the first thing I'm going to tell a client for sure. It's not necessary to point it out. And I don't expect accommodations with my scripts or anything because there are so many tools that I have that can make that work that I don't feel like I need to demand that from the client. There have been cases where I have. Early in my career, I had an e-learning project come up. This person wanted to send me a binder, an actual physical binder with everything that I was going to read. And in that binder, there would be just what your CFA would get. Like this was for the training of the certified financial advisors. This was training so that they could take their test to get certified. And that was what I was going to read. So there were all these graphs and things in there that didn't need to be read, at least in their opinion, they didn't. And so they were going to cross out the stuff that didn't need to be read and just keep the stuff that did clear and clean so I could presumably see it and read it. And I had to say to the client, well, you can send me the binder, but do you also have PDFs because I can't see and I'm going to be reading this on a Braille display. And so how is that, will that work for you? So in that case, I had to say something because he really, really wanted to send me this binder, which he ended up doing. Mm-hmm. And what was great was he did that. And then I had the PDFs as well. And so I sat down with my husband and I popped open these PDFs. And when I came across something that seemed a little weird, we'd open up the binder and he'd go, yeah, that's crossed out and that's crossed out and that's crossed out. You're going to stop on this sentence and you're going to start again here. So, and these were the days before Ira was around.
Husband 3.0. There you go. There's a use for them things.
Yeah, right.
Being so versatile in what clients would want from you, whether it's talking medical jargon or, all the way to cartoons and everything, that diverse array of skills that you have is the same thing as that we're talking about, like you use Braille or you use Ira or you use an app or you know all three platforms of iOS, Mac, PC, or other screen readers that will help you as you go into the workforce or school or anything that you need to access. I'm rambling here, but having a big vast of tools to draw from will help you. Where your disability, your blindness, your visual impairment doesn't really come into play that much.
I think this is one of the places where maybe it's an advantage for somebody who's grown up with a particular disability versus someone who loses it later in life. We grew up with the tools. We know the tools because we live with these tools all the time. There's not no, I'm rambling.
There never has been an option.
Yeah, exactly. This is the life. And so there's a fluency and an ease that develops over time, if it's allowed to develop. And I think that's a really important thing to say, too, that while it can be an advantage to grow up with a disability, you have to find a way to circumnavigate the lack of expectation. Mm-hmm. There's so much, no, don't do that. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that for you. That sort of well-meaning caregiving that can happen.
And it can hit you broadside when you least expect it.
Yeah.
It's like wham.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we can navigate that as adults, but as children, there isn't a lot of, how do we learn to manage that? I mean, I grew up white and middle class. I had a lot of opportunities and I'm well aware of it. So there were tools that were given to me growing up that really did shape me. Everything from, learning the Opticon when I was, in elementary school. I got a verse of Braille too. I'm showing my age. Paperless Braille. Being taught to type when I was like 8-9 years old. I just had a lot of stuff that was available to me and a lot of support. And I think that made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, I've noticed a huge difference between an adult that is starting to learn Braille a little bit or someone who's read it. They just use it as if it's just common, fluidly, like giving a speech. They can just read the Braille, refreshable Braille nowadays, and just carry on a conversation as if they're not even reading. And that was impressive to me. I mean, I got to 43 words a minute reading books that I've already read as a sighted person because it was easier to read because I kind of knew until I got into what was the one from England where neighbor has O-U-R instead of O-R. Just threw me for Pride and Prejudice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, what are these words? Color.
Yeah.
Color.
Yeah.
Just learning the Braille was such an experience. Once I started seeing students when I was teaching coming in and reading 300 words of Braille, and their talking devices going, just rattling off this stuff. Yet some of them never experienced making a sandwich or walking outside the door on their own.
Right. They are placed in the box that whomever was surrounding them assumed was acceptable. I want to restate that. I feel like I didn't say that well. They're placed in whatever box the people around them can accept. I'm not saying it any better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, your parents moved you from box to box with the studio. But it seems like your parents were open. It seems like they had expectations for you.
My mom tells the story of going to the Blind Children's Center in Los Angeles when I was, 6 months old, something like that, and seeing another mother come in with what looked like a 4-year-old, and this mother was carrying this child, and in my mother's view, this child didn't seem to be able to do anything for themselves, and that just made an impression on my mom. And I want to say clearly here that I don't think my mom spoke to that mother or had any idea about the possibility that there might have been multiple disabilities with the child. I mean, she made a judgment, but whatever that was, for her, it was a call to action. And my mom also ran a daycare when I was a baby. So I constantly had interaction with other people, from other children to other adults and things like that. So people constantly touching me, speaking to me. There was no expectation I was just going to sit in a playpen and look around. You know what I mean? So I think that all of that stuff was to my benefit.
So your parents created a lot of opportunities for you. What was school like going through? Did you attend college?
I did a messy college attendance thing. I attended college and really want to be there. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I had a lot of fun, and then dropped out, got married and had a kid, and went back and actually finally got my bachelor's degree, finished it in 2008. Yeah, I had a good time in college, though. I did community college. I left high school early to go do community college, which was really fun, and had a great time there. And then moved to Alaska for a year.
Alaska.
And had a fantastic time in Alaska. I don't think I passed most of my classes that year, but I had a great time. Fairbanks. So it was cold, but really fun. Ice skating was fun. Eating moose and caribou was fun. And bouncing around on the tundra was fun. And Alaska was great. Lots of good things about Alaska. Yeah. College when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old was different than college with a child and, being much older. And when I went back and really made a commitment to finish, it was a different thing.
I bet it was.
And a lot of accessibility things had changed too. I mean, I remember sitting around with foreign language books when I was 18, scanning these foreign language books, trying to make sense in OCR, this stuff. And, anything that's in a foreign language is, if it's a learning book, right, it's half in English, half in the other language. So you had the multiple languages being OCR'd and that kind of thing. And there was, I think it's called Learning Ally now, but back in the day it was, Recording for the Blind. But I like to see my copy. I want to see the words under my hands. I learn better that way.
And that's a good thing to find out, how you learn. I remember when I had to switch over to audio.
Oh, yeah.
It worked out pretty good because before I lost my sight, the gas station up the road from me, I drove in 43 minutes. It took me to get to work, basically. And I could listen to a book. They used to come on cassettes. Mm-hmm. I would even mellow out and just go with the flow of the traffic as I was listening to Pelican Brief or something else, all these books that were coming out. And I'm going along, and I would even pause for people, sit out in the parking lot at work just to finish to get to a certain point. So when I lost my sight and I found out about books on tape, it was easy because I've done it before. But some people have a hard time adjusting, and it worked for me as well. Then again, I liked audio. I think my ears were connected somewhere good.
Yeah, and I like audio too. I think it depends on what I'm learning and how much of it I have to retain and what I'm trying to retain. Yeah, it's good to have multiple modalities if you can.
I don't have access to refreshable Braille, but I found out if I type something down, write it down on a Word document or sorts, I found out that I retain it better. I retain it better because I go through another way of doing something, like you like to get it under your fingers. I like to get it out of my fingertips onto the page. Mm-hmm. And then once I do more than one way, it's like, I got it. Mm-hmm. I got it. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
So there's so many different ways of learning, and, everyone goes through college their own way. And mine was later on in life. I was unconventional.
Yeah, me too.
Student. Yeah. Yeah. Which is interesting because you get to tap into, I had kids that were coming up. I better get done with this because otherwise they're going to be in my class. And I didn't. But it's interesting. It's interesting when you start finding your niche, what you wanted to do. You found your voice, and so many other people have used it to get their message across to people. That must feel good that when you get a product out there and you hear yourself, whether in your Miami airport or whether you're doing medical stuff or anything, to hear your voice. And yeah.
I think one of the things I love about it is the variety. I can have something like, a 30-second voicemail greeting for a business that's in and out on the same day versus, a multi-thousand word e-learning project that's going to take a while. Even if I finish it in a single day, I know they're going to come back with changes and pickups and things like that. It's going to drag on for a little bit more. Or an audiobook that's, 8 hours long. That's a marathon. That is not a sprint. So I love that there are always multiple projects going on of different lengths and the variety. I mean, there's a similarity in certain things, like explainer videos. Meet Rob. He has a problem. I'm over dramatizing here, and we have a solution. But because that's kind of it, right? But there's so many incredible things in the world. I think doing voiceover, I'm always kind of in awe about how big the world is and Disney, it's a small world after all. Yes, it is in some ways, but with so many people in the world and so many brains on fire, thinking all the time and wondering and doing and scheming and innovating and stuff like that, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of really cool products and ideas, and there's a lot of learning in what I do. And I love that. And what I love about it more is that nobody's going to test me on it tomorrow. I just get to read it. And sometimes my husband will come home and he'll ask how my day was. And I'll be like, did you know that there is this thing that's happening in the world, or that there is this new drug or whatever? Clinical trials have been really interesting and really terrifying. I mean, I do enough clinical trial reading that there's this feeling like, I understand that pharma's got to do all this research to figure out if the drug is worth it. And yet, wow, the place that somebody must be in to be in some of these clinical trials is terrifying. There's always sort of this clause in there about, well, we haven't really had this drug approved completely yet. So here's a list of side effects, but this drug is so new that, we don't know all the side effects. So you might have some side effects that we just don't know about. But we're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of you as long as the issue that you have is related to taking our drug. Well, who proves that? Who holds the burden of proof on that? You take drug, you get sick. Is it the drugs doing, or and I think that what people think about when they think about things like clinical trials is cancer. You're on your deathbed. But there are things like psoriasis, right? Or arthritis.
Oh, yeah.
That aren't necessarily killers, but have these drugs and need these people as guinea pigs. So yeah, it's fascinating. So much fascinating stuff. So then I get all philosophical and then a political ad comes by and then I can just which is really fun.
That sounded political right there.
Yeah, right? I think that's the exciting, fun thing about any kind of video game work. Any kind of video game work. God, I remember one of the first jobs I did in that vein was an audition for the National Guard. And I didn't know who the audition was for, because a lot of times they don't tell you. They just, give you a sort of an overview of what this is about and that kind of thing. And they wanted a drill sergeant. And so I got to, how fun, right? You just get to be, really loud, like you're in front of a bunch of people and you're trying to make them do what you want them to do. And it was just so, it was so much fun. And I ended up getting that gig, and it was an e-learning gig. And so there was a narration voice that I did for all of the narration training. And then what would happen is this drill sergeant would show up when the knowledge checks came around. So when they wanted to quiz you on what you had just learned to understand whether you got it or not, then out came the drill sergeant. So there's my point that character work is not just in video games and cartoons. A lot of e-learning, which has changed as well. E-learning is moving toward this scenario-based kind of centric thing where it's not just a narrator sitting with you talking to you about what you might learn. And in this module, your objectives are the following. No, we get to have multiple voice talents representing multiple characters. So if you are a psychologist and you see these scenarios role played with somebody that comes in, a patient that comes into your office, and there's the voice of the psychologist and there's the voice of the patient and there's a different voice that's the narrator, right? So character work is not just limited to video games and cartoons.
It's kind of fun when you're just at home and you want to break into a character here or there at some situation. You get a certain piece of mail and just blah, 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 blah. And
it's interesting to play with it. I think the fun of being here too, I think actors experience, all of this cool character work and voice acting is similar, but being behind the mic, I can't always be that loud. I'm not trying to project to the back of the room. I'm not on a stage per se. I'm in a booth. And so I have to accommodate for that. But when doing something like for a video game, and I have to say, I don't do a lot of video game work these days, but when I started out and I was playing with it and having fun with it, I did a game where I had to cry and I had to laugh and I had to breathe like I was, kind of like I was in some kind of danger or something. Mm-hmm. And I had to scream and... It's a lot of fun.
We call that marriage nowadays. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. It was pretty neat. You get to be people and characters. I mean, God, can you imagine being Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter? How do you play someone that's eating people?
Yeah.
This is, for anybody who doesn't understand the reference, go watch Silence of the Lambs, old movie, but it's fun to be somebody that you aren't. It's interesting to have a perspective that's completely different from yours and to find a way to get out of the room and get out of your own way to tell the story.
We joke around sometimes, like every once in a while, we might just say, and now a brand new car. You just switch into, just to get your point across, animate it and stuff. I was teaching woodworking. I'd always use, you take the saw, I start making sound instead of my hands. I can't see my hands moving all the time, so I make sounds for certain things. It's that animated, it's fun. I miss that. I miss that with students around. I'll be out in California as soon as the world opens up again, but it's fun. And that's what attracted me so much to your voices, I should say. You're never alone, are you?
Yeah, it sounds like that it's not just the fun of making the sounds and everything, but you are having a response to the reactions of the students, right? Mm-hmm. Right, because they're having as much fun with it as you are.
Exactly. Exactly. And like your daughter picked up on it, and saying, because of you. It had to have been fun growing up, bantering, and it paid off for her. Now she's doing stuff with it too.
Yeah.
And she enjoys it. That's the most important thing.
Yes. And I would say too that back and forth interaction, I mean, voiceover work can totally be isolating, right? I'm in this booth. It's just me. I work from home. I'm not going into an office. I live on sort of a rural suburban space. So suburbia is right down the street from me, but I live on a pretty rural road. We're on 7 acres here. It's a sidewalkless road.
Guineas and chickens are safe.
Yeah, they are, because I have a long driveway. It can be an isolating thing. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I love to do is to actually be in directed sessions with my clients via Zoom, via phone, via WhatsApp, via Skype, via specifically designed things for music and voiceover people like Source Connect and IPDTL. They're sort of beefed up voiceover IP products that allow somebody across the world or the country to record me on their side and essentially have it sound like I'm in the next room. I'm in the booth in their studio. So that when we get off that call, they already have the files and everything because they're actually recording on their side. And the audio quality is that good.
Wow.
Yeah, but that interaction, that being in a session with somebody. And sometimes it's not just one other person. I mean, God, a lot of times you get in on these sessions and you've got the writer of the script and the producer and the sound engineer and well, there's somebody from the marketing team. And, you got like 5, 6 people in a room and everybody has an opinion. But it's a ton of fun. I love the directed sessions, the interaction, the production value, just getting that direction. I mean, when you're doing a voiceover on your own, you're guessing. You're making an educated guess, but you're guessing in terms of what does the client want. When I'm in a directed session, if I guess wrong, I get immediate feedback. And we do another take and we figure it out until we get it right. And it's wonderful. It's just, it's magic. So there you go.
I'll have my wife say something in certain productions that I'll do. I need a voice, a contrasting voice.
Like a sounding board?
Yeah. Well, I'll have her get on the microphone and I'll have her say something like, and then he went to the shed. And she'll say it. And I said, no, sound happier. Mm-hmm. And then he went to the shed. Wait. But put a little mystery in it. And she's like, I said it twice. What do you want? So I start doing this directing. I'm going to lose her as my person that comes in and adds these things because she knows what she gets into. But I get what you mean when you have directors. You got the information right there, right now, so you can bang it out. You don't have, there's no more guessing.
Yeah, but in terms of working with your wife, I understand that. And I think that the interesting thing, one of the things I've learned, and I feel like I'm still learning this because it has to conk me over the head every now and then. I have to relearn it, The lesson's going to be taught to you until you really get it and stop doing the same thing over and over, is that, certain people are good for certain things. If I can say, like my husband, there are things that he's just great about. When I'm in crisis, man, he's a go-to. But for some of the day-to-day stuff where I want really detail-oriented feedback, he's the wrong person to talk to because it's just not who he is, right? So like when I was putting together my logo, I could ask him questions about it, and he had answers, but his answers were too vague for me.
Looks good.
Yeah, right? That's exactly it. So my daughter's much more detail-oriented, like me. And so I'm saying that like some people love all that direction, and like your wife is like, oh, don't make me do this. You just need to find somebody else who's willing to put up with your multiple takes approach.
I think it's really fun. It takes me back to acting. I see what you're talking about, how you started out with music and singing and audio and all this stuff just comes together. But it is fun. It is fun interacting. And you have a lot of fun on the podcast you're on with Garth as well. I hear you guys. That must be a blast.
Oh, the Audio Roundtable podcast that I do with Garth Humphreys, Matt McLaren, and Scott Chesworth. Yes, 3 countries, 4 people, all blind folks. We got Australia, the UK, and the United States covered. Yeah, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. And then there's all the goofy fun that goes on in between. Mm-hmm. They can geek out on things. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, what are you talking about? In the WhatsApp group that we have. But yeah, they're a lot of fun.
You talk about geeking out on stuff. I've gotten to a point where Apple says that it just works, but that's all I want things to do.
Yeah.
Is just work because I want to accomplish this. I want this. I want that. I used to want to open up the box and dig in.
That's so interesting that you say that. When my husband and I met, we were both working for a contractor. We were picking up the phone as Microsoft people. But we didn't actually work for Microsoft because Microsoft had outsourced their technical support. And so we were doing, Windows 95 technical support.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Windows 95. Put in disk 4.
Yeah. There were like, 20 some odd discs or something, maybe 15. I don't remember how many that it used to take.
It was the
floppy discs.
RNIB of software where you get the 27 cassettes. Here's your book.
Yeah.
4 tracks.
Yeah. So we were doing Microsoft technical support, but we'd hang out at each other's apartments. Well, and we'd bring our big tower desktops, machines, big 486s over to each other's houses and link them up via coaxial cable to see if we could network them together and what fun that would be. And then we were geeking out, 4:00 in the morning. Wow. Yeah, those were the days, right? But I learned a lot of troubleshooting skills in that job.
Mm-hmm.
Like troubleshooting computers, troubleshooting tech, skills that still work for me because, just the basics. And my husband is still in IT and he's still doing tech support of a sort. It's higher level and it's better paid, but it's, sort of one of the first rules of thumb is, well, did you restart the computer? And, my computer won't do this. Okay, have you restarted it? Nope. Well, try that first.
Did you remove the sledgehammer from the side of it?
Is it plugged in?
You had that interest to dig in, to dive in, to do all that, and it's paid off. I've met so many people that never even want to lift the hood. It's just, it don't work, But I get it that they need the tech support. So, like you were at Microsoft, all these companies have tech supports, and it's so neat today compared to yesterday that they can tandem in to your computer. Yeah. What a treat. I wish there always was a little person in that computer that says, hey, what's up? You're not working.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is neat. And I can remember, back in the day where you couldn't tandem into somebody's computer, having to tell them how to type things and having to describe the backslash versus the forward slash. Because back in the Windows 95 days, you still had a fair amount of command line work that you might need to do.
DOS.
Yeah. So, yes, TeamViewer is my friend.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Where's the any key?
It's any key you want it to be. I don't know.
Hit any key to proceed.
Hit any key.
Where's that? Where is that?
You have to pick up your keyboard and you have to flip it over and take the batteries out, and it's hiding underneath.
There it is. One of my favorites is the lady that called in. I don't know if it was a lady or a guy. It probably gets changed. This rooster called in one time, and they said, well, open up your hard drive. Not your hard drive, your CD-ROM. And she couldn't figure out where it was. And then they described it to her, and she says, that's my cup holder.
Mm-hmm. I remember when they were training us on how to do technical support, and they gave us a CD, and for some reason it wouldn't work. And the client kept saying it won't work. How come it won't work? And we were trying to figure it out. And the solution was that somebody had written on the back of it with a Sharpie, like on the side down that you put in. That's the side that is read by the computer. That was the issue.
Wow. Sharpies were a good thing for a while.
Yeah. My daughter used to use Sharpies to draw on herself when she was little.
Kids, they're a wonderful thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And then they grow up, and they're wonderful for different reasons.
Your job, you're down in the dungeon, you're secluded and all that stuff. So this quarantining really was like, okay, I've been doing that. I've done that. I got it. I'm good. It wasn't much difference that you're talking about.
No, it's not. It's true. I miss my favorite coffee place. It's called Uncommon Grounds, and they're not open. And so that's very sad. But no, it's not very different for me. In terms of my job, this is what I do. My daughter, Kira, in terms of, she does voiceover, but she also is an IRA agent, so she works from home. My husband's the only one who has had to go in. But even he has been able to do sort of a split go in and stay home kind of thing. Yeah, it hasn't really changed a lot for us as a family.
No.
I do see changes in the voiceover landscape. It's really interesting to me to see how many webinars are popping up around how to do a directed session, how to have a home studio. And I just think, wow, so many voice actors I know have a home studio. Who doesn't? And I think the people that don't are probably the people who live in places like New York City, where there's still a lot of studios and it's such a densely populated space that you come in. You still come into those places and get recorded in those spaces. And so to transition to a home studio is a big thing for them. But yeah, for me, I'm well positioned to keep doing what I do, which is pretty great.
Yeah, we were in a conversation a couple of weeks ago. You said something that got me really thinking. And I mentioned all these things that are popping up. You mentioned how to do a home studio, how to do all this stuff. But there was a gathering of some webinar of some sort on the effects that the lockdown has had on the blindness community. And they wanted to talk about that. And I just off the cuff, I just said something like, yeah, everybody's coming up with stuff to talk about, as if everyone doesn't have a problem. Why should one stick out? And you defended it, or in a sense, or brought light to it, that something about we just can't let the guard down.
I kind of remember what you're talking about.
It was interesting. I was just like, stuff happens, okay? I can't play hockey right now because I was supposed to be trying out in Pittsburgh for the U.S. national team. But I can't complain to anybody because the whole world's shut down.
You know what? I remember this. What's so funny to me is that the way I remember it and the way that I took it in that moment was that you were sort of saying, I took it as blind people should stop complaining like the world is good and it's never been a better time to be blind. And it was sort of the kumbaya positivity thing that was coming up for me. That's what was going on for me.
It was pretty philosophical.
And that was just my take on it. I think there's a lot of gratitude in the blindness community in general, particularly around maybe more so people who have lost their sight. It's like, oh, it's so wonderful that all these tools exist. And I think maybe for those of us who have grown up with it, we see the holes in the tools and where the things sort of break down. And for me, I'm in my 40s, there's a certain level of tiredness around these excuses that sighted people have or businesses make around, gosh, we just didn't know, or gee, we never thought of that. It's 2020. What do you mean you never thought of that? Well, what rock are you hiding under? And I think oftentimes we come across as very inspirational to the sighted community, and the spin is very positive and very friendly and hopeful and full of gratitude and overcoming and all of that. And it's not that that's wrong. It's just that unless we have the conversation about where the holes are, we're never going to be able to patch them. That was what I was trying to say. If that helps.
No, it makes perfectly good sense. I know the exact feeling where all of a sudden you bring something to people's attention. It seems like they just turn their head towards you for a second, then nod and go, okay. And then they carry on. It's like the impact that ever really sinks in, there's no systemic buildup. I don't care who you are. You may think you're the most ninja mobile person with the wildest cane in the world. And yet if you're standing at a street corner, you're just a blind person to sighted people sometimes. It's just, you can't change that. You just can't change the limited expectations that society puts upon someone who's wearing the scarlet letter B. You're just there, and that's who you are until they find out differently. And that's why you have to have a voice like yours so people forget all about it.
Yeah. That's it. And I think that's why we have to, I think it was that you put it in terms of complaining. And I was like, oh, but complaining can be valuable. Because again, we can't overcome those kinds of expectations or lack thereof, unless we say something.
Exactly. And you got the voice to say it.
Oh, thank you. You got the podcast for the voice. And so you have a voice too.
It's like,
look how long you've been around. How cool is that?
It's like chocolate and peanut butter.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
It does.
Buckeyes. Buckeyes are made of chocolate and peanut butter and powdered sugar and I don't know what else off the top of my head.
Really? Buckeyes?
Yeah, Buckeyes.
We'll all have to go out to New York to get some Buckeyes then.
Oh, it's an Ohio thing.
Ohio State Buckeyes. That makes perfectly good sense.
Yeah, right? Buckeyes, peanut butter and powdered sugar and, God, I want to say honey. I could be wrong. I'd have to get my mom's Buckeye recipe out. But you make peanut butter, powdered sugar, you roll them into balls and you freeze them. And then you melt a bunch of delicious chocolate and you dip the peanut butter balls in. And they have chocolate all around except for this little unchocolatey part on the very top, and they're called Buckeyes, and they're delicious and wonderful.
Unchocolatey.
They take a lot of work to make, but they're so good.
Satauna, how can people find you?
Oh, gosh. You can email me at satana@gmail.com, and I'll spell my name. It's S like Sierra, A-T-A-U-N like November, A. SATAUNA @gmail.com. I'm also at www.satana.com. I'm on Twitter at SatanaH. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram with alt text, so you can get descriptions of the kitties in my life. There are kitties, there's a dog, and of course, as we mentioned earlier, the chickens. So yeah, that's me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on The Blind Abilities and sharing your journey, your lifestyle, what you do, your voiceover work, and some good philosophical and insightful conversations. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll have to do it again soon.
All right. Always a great time talking to Satauna. Satauna Howery. You can find her at satana.com. That's SATAUNA.com. What a voice. What a voice. Be sure to contact your state services for the blind, your voc rehab, and find out what they can do for you. Live, work, read, succeed. A big shout out to Chichow for his beautiful music. You can follow Chichow on Twitter at LChichow. For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download our free Blind Abilities app from the App Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And now available on Android from the Google Play Store. And most importantly, I want to thank you, the listener. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, Blind Abilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.